Welcome, enjoy the video, subscribe and turn on notifications. I still remember that fateful day at Anime Expo when I first met Marissa. For those unfamiliar, anime conventions are these massive gatherings where Japanese animation enthusiasts come together to celebrate their favorite shows, buy merchandise, and often dress up as characters. I spotted her across the dealer's hall, wearing a handmade costume from an obscure anime show about giant robots defending Earth. At the time, as a teen, I was deep into the anime scene myself, and finding someone else who knew about this series felt like striking gold. Most people gravitated toward the mainstream shows, but here was someone who shared my specific niche interest. We ended up talking for hours at the convention's food court, breaking down every episode, debating the best robot designs, and sharing our theories about the show's cryptic ending. Those 2 years of friendship that followed were filled with late-night discussions about anime, sharing favorite episodes, and attending more conventions together. When we started dating, it felt natural. We moved in together after a year, and our apartment became this perfect blend of our interests. Her detailed anime figures lined the shelves, while my old Nintendo and PlayStation consoles sat below the TV. She'd play her gacha games, these anime-style video games where you collect characters through chance draws, while I'd work on my laptop nearby. As years passed, my interest in anime gradually faded. The hours I used to spend watching series were replaced by work projects and other pursuits. But Marissa's passion never dimmed. She still lit up talking about new shows, planned her convention costumes months in advance, and got excited about rare characters she got in her games. I still accompanied her to conventions, though my role has shifted from fellow enthusiast to supportive boyfriend. I helped carry her bags, took photos, and enjoyed watching her in her element. Seeing her happiness made it all worthwhile. The ring, hidden in my desk drawer, is proof enough that our connection was always about more than just common interests. I was planning to propose to her after we came back home from a big anime convention that was just coming up. I had no idea that would be our last convention together. I couldn't help but grin watching Marissa's reaction when she spotted that cosplayer, a tall guy dressed up in a costume of a character from her favorite show. Her eyes went wide, and she grabbed my arm so hard I almost dropped my phone. The guy's costume was pretty impressive. I may not follow anime stuff anymore, but even I could appreciate the craftsmanship. Every detail of his armor gleamed under the convention center lights, and the prop sword at his hip looked like it could have been real. Marissa just stood there, mouth slightly open. I'd seen her get excited about cosplay before, but this was different. Her face turned bright red, and when she tried to speak, all that came out was a jumbled mess of words. It reminded me of when we first started dating, that same nervous energy. I stepped up next to her, placing my hand on her shoulder. "Mind if we get a photo?" I asked the cosplayer. "My girlfriend's a huge fan." The guy, Ash, as he introduced himself, broke into this warm, genuine smile. Not the fake kind you sometimes see at these events, but one that reached his eyes. He struck one of Kale's signature poses from the game with such confidence that Marissa let out a small squeak of delight. I raised my phone, framing the shot, while trying not to laugh at Marissa's starstruck expression. She could barely keep still, practically vibrating with excitement as she posed next to him. Through the phone screen, I watched her face light up, her earlier embarrassment morphing into pure joy. The click of my camera captured that perfect moment of fan meeting idol, and I couldn't help but chuckle. Sure, I might not get the appeal anymore, but seeing Marissa this happy made the whole convention worth it. I had no clue how deeply I would come to regret even suggesting I help with this photo. I thought Marissa's excitement about the convention would fade after a few days, like it usually did, but this time was different. Every night, I'd catch her giggling at her phone. that familiar blue light illuminating her face in our dimly lit living room. At first, I found it endearing. Her passion for anime and cosplay was part of what made her unique. The photo of her with that cosplayer Ash became her new phone background. She'd pull it up at random moments just to stare at it. Then I started noticing changes in her routine. She'd stay up later than usual, hunched over her phone. If I walked near, she'd quickly switch apps or turn the screen away. The occasional convention talk evolved into constant chatter about cosplay techniques and upcoming events. Every conversation somehow circled back to the community, to new trends, to talented cosplayers, particularly Ash. One evening, I glanced over her shoulder while bringing her tea. Her fingers quickly swiped away from what looked like a private message thread. The profile picture was unmistakably the same cosplayer from the convention. My stomach turned, but I convinced myself I was overreacting. Marissa had always been social, always made friends easily in the anime community. Days stretched into weeks and her phone became an extension of her hand. She'd smile at notifications, rush to respond, then quickly hide the screen when I entered the room. And I delayed the proposal. I still didn't believe anything was wrong. But I had this strange sensation. As things escalated, I suppose I was fortunate that the ring had remained in my drawer. The changes started small at first. Marissa's running late texts became a daily occurrence, each one accompanied by increasingly elaborate explanations. Something felt off about her excuses. Meetings that ran long, traffic delays, last-minute project deadlines. I'd been with her long enough to know her work patterns, and this wasn't normal. Her phone became an extension of her hand. During dinner, while watching TV, even when we walked together, her eyes stayed glued to that screen. I tried everything to reconnect, suggested watching the new season of that magical girl anime she wouldn't shut up about last month, bought tickets to that ramen place she loved, even offered to help her with her next cosplay project. Each attempt met with the same response. I'm just so tired. Or maybe next week. Or work's really crazy right now. The energy shift was what really got to me. She'd come home with this spark in her eyes, practically bouncing off the walls. But none of it was directed my way. That familiar excitement I used to love seeing was there, just not for me anymore. She was out in the garden hanging laundry when her phone lit up on the coffee table. A notification from Ash. My finger hovered over the screen for a moment before I gave in. The message seemed innocent enough, something about meeting up to discuss costume details, but those emojis that followed. Hearts. Winking faces, flames. My stomach churned as pieces started falling into place. The late nights, the secrecy, the new energy. Her behavior made a horrible kind of sense now. I quickly put the phone back exactly as I found it when I heard the door open, her coming back with an empty laundry basket. I collapsed onto the couch as the reality of what I'd discovered washed over me. All those hours she said she was working late? Had she been with him? Was everything I thought I knew about us built on lies? My suspicions had been growing. I thought I knew Marissa better than this, but the doubt gnawed at me until I couldn't take it anymore. Installing the tracking app took less than 5 minutes while she was in the shower. I told myself it was just to prove my paranoia wrong, to show that I was being ridiculous, but when she kissed me goodbye the next evening, claiming another overtime shift at work, the app told a different story. The blue dot on my screen moved steadily across town, finally stopping at the Riverside Motel. My hands shook as I grabbed my keys. The 15-minute drive felt like hours, my mind spinning through every possible explanation, each one worse than the last. I parked across the street, killing the engine but leaving the key in the ignition. The motel was one of those retro-style places, all neon and chrome, trying too hard to be vintage. Through the gathering dusk, I watched the second-floor walkway, waiting. The door to room 217 opened. Marissa stepped out first, her head thrown back in laughter. The sound carried across the parking lot, painfully familiar. Then Ash followed, adjusting the strap of his messenger bag. They looked comfortable together, relaxed, like they'd done this before. The sight hit me like a physical blow. My girlfriend and the cosplayer she'd always claimed was just a friend from conventions. Now, I knew better. Something cracked inside my chest, a cold, sharp feeling that spread through my whole body. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, forcing myself to stay put as they walked to their separate cars. No dramatic confrontation. No scene. They wouldn't even know I was here. I watched them drive away, then sat there in the darkness, letting the reality sink in. I'd handle this my way, on my terms. But first, I needed to process what I'd just witnessed. And then, I was intending to reach out to someone. I sat across from Ash at the quiet coffee shop, my hands wrapped around a cup that had long gone cold. The afternoon crowd had thinned out, giving us the privacy needed for this conversation. My stomach churned as I pulled out my phone, showing him the text messages I'd discovered. Screenshots of conversations between him and Marissa, each one revealing a different lie she'd told. To him, she was single and looking for a serious relationship. To me, she was committed and faithful. "She told me you were just her roommate," Ash's voice cracked, his confident demeanor crumbling as he scrawled through the evidence. "That you were this controlling ex who wouldn't move out." I watched his expression shift from disbelief to rage. 3 months, he slammed the phone down. 3 fucking months she's been playing us both. The barista glanced our way, but I kept my voice steady. I can't let her get away with this. She has to pay for what she did. As it turned out, Ash already had a brilliant idea. After a bit of careful planning and deliberation, we finally felt prepared to set our revenge plan into motion. Ash had played his part perfectly. On their next meeting, he would request she pose for a special, private photo shoot for him. The outfit was exactly as planned, far more revealing than anything she'd normally consider. When Ash first suggested it, we knew Marissa would hesitate. But his careful manipulation over the past few days, praising her beauty and building her up, had worked. She'd agreed, despite her initial shyness. Ash circled her with his camera, directing poses with practiced ease. "Gorgeous! Now lean forward a bit more. Perfect!" Each compliment made her beam brighter, attempting increasingly provocative poses. Her usual self-consciousness melted away under his constant stream of praise. "You're a natural at this," Ash encouraged, snapping more photos. "The camera loves you. Try putting your leg up on that chair." Now she was fully under his spell, drunk on compliments and attention. The photo shoot continued, with Ash expertly manipulating her into more compromising positions. Later, I received a text from Ash that read, "Done. It was easier than expected." I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow as I glanced at the revealing photos he sent along with it. A curved smile appeared on my face. Now we could strike her down. I was at work when Marissa's call came through, her voice breaking between sobs. At first, I couldn't make sense of what she was saying. Something about photos and messages. I stepped away from my desk and into the hallway. The full picture emerged in fragments. Someone had taken her private photos, the ones she wasn't so proud of, and posted them on some adult website with her actual phone number. She mentioned people from the local anime community were among those sending her explicit messages. It was really hard to pretend to be surprised. I left work early and drove straight to her apartment, found her curled up on her couch, still in her pajamas, her phone buzzing nonstop on the coffee table. Her Sailor Moon poster collection, usually her pride and joy, seemed to mock the situation from the walls. "They're calling me a slut," she whispered, showing me her phone. "People I thought were my friends are sharing the link everywhere." Crude comments about her body, assumptions about her character, improper offers. Her social media was flooded with notifications, each ping making her flinch. "My mom called," Marissa said, fresh tears streaming down her face. "Someone sent the link to her workplace. She's so disappointed, Elliot. She doesn't believe me that I didn't post those myself." I smiled at her, taking a moment to appreciate the shock etched across her face. "Well, you can't really campaign now, can you? After all those people are right about you." I stood there, watching Marissa's face contort with rage. She stood up from the couch. It was you! How could you do this to me? You had no right! No right!" Her voice echoed against the walls, her finger pointing at me. The calm I felt surprised even me. Months of suspicion and hurt had hardened something inside me. "I did what needed to be done, Marissa. You're the one who lied. To me and to Ash." "Oh, you know about him? This was all his fault. Ash manipulated me. He was just as hurt by you as I was." Marissa's legs gave out, and she slumped against the wall. Makeup ran down her cheeks in black streaks as reality crashed down. Her shoulders shook with sobs, all the fight draining from her body. I just wanted to have some fun with him, meet him and hang out as friends," she choked out between gasps. "I wasn't planning for this to escalate." The last of her facade crumbled as she buried her face in her hands, her whole body trembling. I knew she was lying. I wasn't going to be fooled by her any longer. I packed my bags methodically the next morning, each fold and tuck of clothing a deliberate action to keep my mind focused on the task rather than the sound of Marissa's voice from the other side of the bedroom door. "Elliot, please. We can work through this." Her voice cracked with desperation. "Ash didn't mean anything to me." I zipped up my last bag, the sound cutting through her pleas. Opening the door, I found her standing there, with mascara streaks down her cheeks, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She reached for my arm, but I stepped past her, my jaw clenched tight. "Don't leave! I'm begging you!" She followed me through our apartment, soon to be just hers. "I'll block him, I'll stop cosplaying, whatever you want." The walk to my car felt like miles. Each step carried the weight of 3 years together. But my resolve didn't waver. Our shared friends' reactions came swift and harsh. Jane from our anime-watching group blocked Marissa on all social media. Mike, who'd photographed our couple cosplays, publicly denounced her behavior in the local cosplay community. The scandal spread quickly. Everyone had seen the photos. Everyone knew what she'd done behind my back. A week later, I heard through mutual friends about her desperate attempt to reach out to Ash. She'd shown up at his apartment, claiming she needed someone who'd understand and support her. But Ash, despite his usual friendly demeanor, shut her down completely. He blocked her number right in front of her, Jamie told me over coffee, deleted her contact, unfollowed her everywhere, said he couldn't associate with her and that she'd betrayed him. I stared into my coffee cup, feeling a hollow vindication. Marissa had tried to use Ash as her last lifeline, banking on him to save her from the consequences of her actions. Instead, she'd found herself completely alone. No boyfriend, no friends, no community. Just the aftermath of her choices and the empty space where our life together used to be. Through my office window, I watched autumn leaves dance across the corporate plaza. The seasonal shift brought a sense of calm I hadn't felt in months. My promotion to senior analyst came with a corner office, a small victory that felt monumental after everything that happened. I adjusted my tie, preparing for the monthly team meeting. My colleagues had become more than co-workers. They were friends who helped me rebuild. Joanne from accounting regularly invited me to trivia nights. Eric from IT got me into rock climbing. Simple pleasures that grounded me in reality. The convention center loomed in the distance, its glass facade reflecting the October sun. Another anime convention was in town. I decided to attend, not out of nostalgia, but because my team was helping organize the business logistics. It felt different walking those halls now, the excitement replaced by professional detachment. Between meetings with vendors, I caught sight of a familiar figure. Marissa stood near the artist alley, her shoulders slumped, watching from afar. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. The elaborate costume she once wore with such pride, replaced by plain clothes. Our eyes met, and she turned away quickly, hiding her face in her palms, disappearing into the crowd. I felt nothing but a distant pang of recognition. My colleagues called me over, laughing about something. As I joined them, I realized how far I'd come. The betrayal that once consumed me had faded into a footnote, a lesson learned. I smiled genuinely, engaged in the conversation about upcoming projects, and left my past where it belonged. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed the story, remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video for more stories like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you have any similar stories to share, leave them in the comments and we'll make sure to bring them to life. Thanks for watching.